Your Honor, defense is opening their case by grandstanding.
Make your point and move on, Miss Miller.
Mr. Takahama, as coroner, isn't it your job to autopsy all murder victims in Port Charles?
Asked and answered, Your Honor. We've already established that Mr. Alcazar's body has not been recovered yet.
Mr. Takahama, without a body or any other supporting forensic evidence such as DNA or evidence of a struggle, you have no proof that the man is dead or that a crime has been committed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Commissioner Scorpio, you have been police commissioner here in Port Charles for over 10 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
And during the time that you have held that office, how many times has Jason Morgan been arrested?
I'm not sure of the exact number, but I'd say around a dozen.
A dozen. Well, according to Mr. Morgan's PCPD file, 32 separate incidents.
That looks about right.
How many times has he been convicted?
None.
Could you repeat that, Commissioner?
None.
So 32 times your department has subjected my client to the humiliation of being handcuffed, fingerprinted, and falsely accused.
Just because Jason was never convicted doesn't mean he was innocent.
Yes or no, Commissioner?
Yes.
How do you account for that astonishing ratio of arrest to conviction?
Jason Morgan can afford to hire high-priced attorneys like yourself.
You display a surprising lack of confidence in the legal system, Commissioner. If there had been even one shred of evidence against my client, no high-priced attorney in the world could have made a judge and jury
Your Honor,
turn
objection.
a blind eye.
Objection. Defense is speculating.
Sustained. Get to the point, Miss Miller.
Isn't it possible that this current charge of murdering a man who may not even be dead is the direct result of a personal vendetta by Mr. Lansing against my client with the willing help of
Objection,
the
Your Honor.
PCPD? Isn't it true
Objection, Your Honor. Defense is
that
not
Rick
presenting
Lansing
anything
has
more
been out
than
to
their
get
own
Jason
bias
Morgan
against
for
prosecution?
years? And this trial is simply more of the same. Could you identify this, please?
It's the record of a withdrawal from a Singapore bank.
Can you tell the court who withdrew the money?
Lorenzo Alcazar.
Could anyone else have withdrawn this money?
Not with this kind of account. It requires fingerprint and retina scan. Mr. Alcazar would have had to have been there in person.
Does this document indicate when the money was withdrawn?
Yesterday.
Thank you. Your witness.
Thank you. Is it possible that someone could have subverted the system?
It's highly unlikely.
Really? Well, isn't it true that Bolivian drug lords managed to launder money through your bank for the past 6 years?
I don't see the relevance.
Well, all I'm saying is, if motivated criminals with unlimited resources managed to subvert your banking system, isn't it possible that they could have done the same thing in order to keep one of their own from being convicted of murder?
I suppose anything
I'm sorry, is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Javi, why did you have a camera crew outside the PCPD on the day that Jason Morgan was transferred back from Pentonville to await this trial?
The district attorney approached me and offered me full access to Jason Morgan's trial, starting with his transfer back from Pentonville.
Is that common?
Wow, it's unprecedented. Mr. Lansing said as much.
What reason did Mr. Lansing provide you for granting this unprecedented access to the proceedings against my client?
D.A. Lansing was confident he would get a conviction, and he wanted to document every step. Mr. Lansing said it was a high-profile case that could make a career, but it was also personal for him.
Objection, Your Honor. This is pure speculation.
Your Honor, the witness is recounting her own conversation with the district attorney. There is no speculation, there is no hearsay. It is her best recollection of what the district attorney said.
You may proceed. However, the witness is cautioned to confine her testimony to the conversation as she remembers it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Javi, did Mr. Lansing say anything else that would suggest this case is personal?
Yes, he did. Mr. Lansing said he was going to be the one who sent Jason to prison, and that he wanted to document every step for publicity.
The district attorney has been driven by his personal ambitions and desire for revenge against Jason Morgan. But in his rush to judgment, the district attorney has overlooked one crucial fact about this case. Lorenzo Alcazar is still alive.
How convenient for the defense that this evidence should suddenly materialize. Lorenzo Alcazar, supposedly making all of these trips to the bank, making transfers to and from accounts, paper trail with absolutely no eyewitness whatsoever to back it up. Only some grainy video footage with the time and date stamp altered. But why should we be surprised, huh? Jason Morgan is a criminal, right? He works for criminals, and that's what they do. They operate outside the law.
District Attorney Lansing has abused the power of his office to carry out a personal vendetta against Jason Morgan, a man whose only crime has been to be a trusted friend to Mr. Lansing's ex-wife, Elizabeth Spencer, and to Mr. Lansing's brother, Sonny Corinthos.
Jason Morgan has no alibi for the afternoon that Lorenzo Alcazar supposedly vanished without taking a single piece of personal property or saying goodbye to his only child.
You all heard the numbers. Jason Morgan has been arrested by the Port Charles Police Department 32 times and has never been convicted of any crime.
Mr. Morgan has never been convicted of a crime because he can pay for the sort of legal sleight of hand that Miss Miller is attempting here today. But the facts are clear. An eyewitness sat here and swore under oath that he saw Jason Morgan place the lifeless body of Lorenzo Alcazar into the back of an SUV like so much garbage. I played you a recording where Mr. Alcazar clearly says Mr. Morgan's name, followed by the unmistakable sound of a shot being fired through a silencer, and then subsequently Mr. Alcazar's body hitting the ground.
You've heard the testimony about Lorenzo Alcazar's hatred of Jason Morgan. You've heard that Lorenzo Alcazar is involved in dangerous business transactions and has a history of deception and mind games. Well, why wouldn't Lorenzo Alcazar flee this country and leave behind him a trail of false evidence to suggest that he had been murdered?
Defense counsel accuses me of making this personal. It is. Time after time, the legal system has tried to bring Jason Morgan to justice, and time after time, he has walked away, free to kill again. Well, who's going to be his next victim, Somebody I care about? My daughter? How about somebody you care about? Now, as district attorney of this city, it is my job to uphold the law, and men like Jason Morgan make a mockery of that law, and it has got to stop. It has got to end here today. Jason Morgan committed murder. You find him guilty.
The district attorney speaks so eloquently about wanting to convict Jason Morgan. But he cannot see past his own personal prejudice. Because no murder has been committed. Lorenzo Alcazar is not dead. So it is up to you to let Mr. Lansing find his revenge somewhere else. And find Jason Morgan not guilty.